So the Sweet Baby situation just got a whole lot worse. What a big surprise. This time in the form of the Gearbox narrative developer coming out in outright defense of them, attacking gamers. This is a comment that somebody posted. I had read this, I forgot where, but somebody said a good narrative writer of any skin color can write a good character with another skin color without needing consultants. If your studio can't do that, get a better writer. I don't see what's wrong with this statement. I think that's a pretty universally understood concept. I mean, any one writer can write something really good. One good writer can write a bunch of different characters really well without asking for any outside help whatsoever. I'm actually sick of seeing that argument where it's like, well, you can't write this black character because you don't know their personal experiences. And every time I hear someone say that, it's like, well, you can't because of their personal experiences. All I think they mean is racism from whites. It's like, you can't understand the struggle, so you can't write that character. But this has been done so many times. I see this argument all the time against DEI and consultancy, and it just highlights the total misunderstanding of what being a good writer is. That is some nerve he's got there. You don't somehow max out your stats and learn how to write every conceivable character, plot, or prose style. That paragraph is ridiculous all by itself because he says he hears this argument all the time, but he doesn't acknowledge it. And you'll find that Sam Winkler does not acknowledge a lot of things. He says that we misunderstand, but he's the person who wrote Borderlands 3. And if you've played Borderlands 3 or Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, you'll know exactly what I am talking about. And I will show you guys a great example in just a minute. But let's read on. Knowing you can't, aren't ready, or aren't the right person to write something is one of the chief skills for a pro writer. So knowing you can't, aren't ready, or aren't the right person to write something, yeah, but what does that have to do with writing people? Ideally, you have a team that can cover all your bases, but if you have a gap, you hire an outside expert, just like in literally any effing other industry. So his argument is that good writers have writing teams, which is why we have fantastic movies like Morbius, wonderfully written games like Spider-Man 2, and financial successes like Suicide Squad killed the Justice League. Oh wait, the complete opposite is true. But don't worry, he says something far worse than those previous two things. He says just further evidence that 99.99% of the people spewing this S have never created a single thing in their lives that they're proud of, and the rest are just straight up bigots. So he says that all of you gamers who disagree with this situation, who disagree with SBI and are on Brutus's side, for example, are bigots and are pathetic people who have never done anything special in their entire lives. That's what the Gearbox narrative director thinks about you. And if you want to see it for yourself, here he is, Sam Winkler, narrative director at Gearbox Official, previously the lead writer on Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I couldn't even tell you what is in that game. I barely remember it. I don't even know who the villains are. I forgot because it was such an unmemorable game. And then Borderlands 3, oh my goodness, some of the worst writing for Borderlands games ever. And I just want to clarify something to you all really quick before we move further. These are not the same people who made the first Borderlands game and the second one and then the pre-sequel. Those games are awesome. They're amazing games. Borderlands 2, one of my favorite video games of all time. These are not the same people because Randy Pitchford sold the Borderlands franchise for $1.3 billion. And this is what we get. Now we have a bunch of people who destroyed the Borderlands franchise because barely anybody is talking about it. And most people who play the Borderlands games are just going back to play the older ones because the newer ones suck. So that's what he thinks of you gamers. But he's always been the type to not acknowledge the facts and just tune people out whenever they try to confront him with facts. He says, PSA, don't send me your Borderlands theories or story ideas. Seriously, I will not read them. I cannot incorporate your headcanon even if I like it myself or fix a story beat even if I didn't like it myself. It's also going to end a conversation with me real quick. I'm happy to talk about writing as a craft and a career. It's largely why I have my DMs open. But if you start with your advice on what you think I or anyone else should do with Borderlands, you're wasting the opportunity. So what he is saying is, look, all of you fans who did not like Borderlands 3 or Tiny Tina and have suggestions about the future as a fan of Borderlands, I will tell you, I do not care about what you have to say. I will not hear what you have to say. And that is why we get things that he wrote like the one before, saying that 99% of the people spewing this S have never created a single thing in their lives, and the rest are straight up bigots. But it only gets worse from here because Packer Girl screenshotted this and put it on her page. She's been doing really great reporting, been on top of things when it comes to Sweet Baby Inc. related stuff. But she said Gearbox narrative director and Borderlands 3 lead writer Sam Winkler is attacking Gearbox's customer base in the name of Sweet Baby Inc. And guess who responds? Bird. Do you know who Bird is? YouTube partner, 2K, next maker. So they work at 2K. You know what 2K is? That's right, Borderlands. What does rage baiting like this gain you? Sam isn't attacking anyone. Him saying, hey, I don't have experience being X or Y means I need to get that perspective from someone else. Isn't a bad thing. Quit twisting someone's words and actions to fit your pudding brain narrative. I'm sorry. Did you not read what he said? Let's read that again. Let's read it again. What does he say? Just further evidence that 99.99% of the people spewing this S have never created a single thing in their lives that they're proud of, and the rest are just straight up bigots. I'm sorry, did you outright omit that fact and just pretend that that doesn't exist? You know, these people do this all the time. They twist the narrative. They say that we're twisting the narrative, but they completely omit the important facts that made people upset in the first place. I guarantee you that most of the people who responded specifically because he called everybody a bunch of bigots and uncreative people who've never done anything special. Like, how do you just say that to people? It's cruel. It's ridiculous. And this is a person who works at 2K. It's like, hey, you're just misunderstanding him. He's not attacking anyone. That was a straight up attack. What are you talking about? And it only gets even worse from here. Packer Girl, you know, kudos to you for taking all of this heat from these big time developers who are defending Sweet Baby Inc. I got to make sure to shout her out when I post this video on my Twitter so that she knows that people actually care, because she's taking the brunt force of the situation. So somebody tagged who I understand to be the creator and lead developer of Lands Redux. Okay, so this is a person who's making a modded version of Tiny Tina. So they're coming out in defense of Sam Winkler too, probably because they love the Borderlands games and are trying to make a modded version of the game. But they're saying he's right, Lamau, people need to grow the F up. And then of course the person who tagged him says, I agree, lots of people disagreeing with it though. Time for a video. And that person says, no surprise, the whole Sweet Baby thing really brought the termites out of the woodworks. I love how people just completely ignore the most important facts of this entire situation, how this all started, because a Sweet Baby Inc. employee decided to attack somebody who made a Steam curator page. They tried to get that person canceled and it backfired, and now we have this huge conflict going on. It all started because of Sweet Baby, and not just for them attacking people, but because of them trying to change the gaming industry from within for the worse. And it's just so ridiculous that not even on Sam Winkler's own post do these people come to defend him. They go on to people who disagree with him. They go on to their pages to attack them for simply screenshotting his stuff, for simply reporting the truth. And they omit the facts. They pretend that the facts never happened. It's all in their heads. They've completely made it up, and they're lying too, because the whole thing about writers makes no sense. You can easily write something as a single person. You can write an entire biography about a completely different race of people, no problem. All you got to do is your research. You don't have to be in the shoes of those people. And don't worry, I've got an example that will show you how hypocritical Sam is being. In this interview on VentureBeat.com, this was a little bit back in the day, they're talking about the villains they made for Borderlands 3. Winkler says, we were constantly asking ourselves how we'd follow up on Handsome Jack. He's one of the most recognizable video game villains of all time. That is actually an understatement. Handsome Jack in Borderlands 2 was such a popular villain that they made him a playable character in the pre-sequel game that came out a couple of years later. And even then, the writing for his character was excellent. Okay, there's this gameplay section where you take this huge explosion to the face and Handsome Jack gets downed for a minute. And if you know your Borderlands games, you can revive downed players who play with you. So Handsome Jack is down as the story demands. And what's so interesting about it is if you wait too long, Handsome Jack will start to talk to you while waiting for you to pick him back up. He's like, oh, don't worry, just catching my breath. It's hard to breathe. Probably just a side effect of me dying. And that had me cackling. Even when he's talking to you all the time in Borderlands 2, at least there's a purpose to it. These new villains that they made are just the worst. Now, check this out. The reality was, just don't try to do Jack again. We wanted to make sure the voices of the villains were unique and felt relevant in 2019. And so what is it that they think is relevant in 2019? Well, they say this, that unlocked a lot of ideas for us. They managed to do what no one could do before and take this disparate bandit clans and bring them all together. So then we asked, how do you get that popular? Well, these days you become a streamer. Well, let me ask you this, Sam. Are you a streamer? Have you personally experienced the struggles of being a streamer? If you haven't, then how are you writing those two characters? And plus, isn't one of those characters a woman? You've never been a woman, have you? Well, if you haven't been a woman, then why are you writing a woman character? Let me guess, you gathered outside help? I actually wouldn't be surprised about that. If you take a look at the villains right here, these are who they thought should replace Handsome Jack from the second game. These two twins. One of them, the one on the left, looks straight up like Handsome Jack, just a younger version of him. And the one on the right, yeah, I'm pretty sure that you can guess what kind of writing was in this game. And these villains are constantly taking out their iPhones and having themselves up on screens with a bunch of viewers, like always talking to their viewers saying, hey, we've got some great content coming your way. And they're talking to you all the time, and their voices are extremely annoying. And they're not even the most annoying characters in the game, but those are the people that they thought they could replace Handsome Jack with. And this is a contradiction. The very existence of this female character, when Sam Winkler isn't a female, but he's telling everybody else that if they don't understand females, they can't write females. If they don't understand black people, they can't write black people. Not unless you've experienced them personally. You have to spend a crap ton of money outside of your own studio just to get some help to write that character correctly. It's stupid. And not to mention, like, during all of this nonsense, when you have the villain screaming in your face with all of this modern day rhetoric, you have another modern day character named Ava, who's this little annoying girl in this game. Nobody likes her. Okay, the player does not like her. The other characters just tolerate her, and she's constantly screaming at everybody like, get me this item. I'm missing this. Where is it? I need my stuff back. What are you doing? She's constantly telling people what to do. Absolutely irritating. And this is the person who wrote this character. Nobody likes this character. This is supposed to be a siren in training, so she's the key to everything. And she's being trained by a mentor who is really just a siren from the second game, Maya. So you play as this character in the second game, and in this game, in the third game, they just brutally murder her for no reason. Because Ava, the little annoying girl, is supposed to replace her at some point. And so they write this in as, hey, don't touch the girl that is the key to everything. And then the villains are like, all right, so for our viewers, we're going to kill this chick in front of everybody. And then they kill her just brutally. They just melt her. She disintegrates, as you can see in this photo. But right before she disintegrates, she's like, protect Ava. She's the key to everything. And then dies. And that is the writing of Borderlands 3. And it lasts until the very end, when you feel that you've been tortured for hours and hours and don't know what to do with yourself. And that is Borderlands 3. And this is why I'm mad that Gearbox CEO sold the Borderlands franchise for $1.3 billion. It's interesting because Grums tried to quote him, but I guess he was protecting his account. But he says there is no reason a AAA or even AA size team needs to outsource writing. It's the smallest part of the budget. This is nepotism or DEI checkboxes or both. It's silly to imply that white writers can only pen white characters. Guys, I don't even need to tell you. I know that most of you watching this are just like, your brains are breaking. You're just like, I can name like several movies and video games right off the bat who were written by one single person and were written excellently. I know. And that's why I feel like this is just pandering. I mean, how do you go on X and just try to verbally crucify all of the people who you want to buy your games? I mean, people already are having a hard enough time accepting Borderlands 3 and Tiny Tina as part of the franchise. Even Tales from the Borderlands has far better writing than Borderlands 3, and it isn't even made by Gearbox. So I think that we have a big problem here. Somebody is misunderstanding something, and it is not us. And the fact that all of these other developers who see that what Sweet Baby Inc. is saying, who see what the media is saying about Sweet Baby Inc. and about gamers in general, and it still won't click in their brains why people are having such a hard time understanding what they're saying. It's mind-boggling that this situation has not exploded even bigger than it already has, because these people are just outright willfully ignoring the facts of the entire situation, and they're vilifying literally everybody who disagrees with Sweet Baby Inc. And these are people who are in charge of some of the biggest franchises in the gaming industry. This problem is way bigger than GDC. It's rooted far deeper than any of us can understand. And to root this kind of thing out, it's going to take talking about it, pointing these people out, and helping people to know who really has their best interests at heart and who is just out to get them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow, meow.